possibly be an hour in or 5 minutes route. And it looks like we're off.
Yep, Zero Rush starting at Link's house and Chex starting at Sanctuary. So one thing to note is in Overworld glitches, Death Mountain is immediately accessible with those boots, and we may see an early ascent here if Chex wants to do that, because this is around the spot where you do the clip to do the Death Mountain ascent.
Yeah, he's a fan of doing Death Mountain first because he knows how to get to the graveyard ledge very early, which has a bunch of bombs under pots, which is very helpful early on, as you don't really start with any weapon. Although it is a tricky clip as you're trying to do a teleport while there are boulders raining down on you. So as far as what our racers are allowed to do, they're allowed to do pretty much any glitch they want on the overworld except for EG, but since we know what that is, we're going to understand that they are not going to employ that. But if they do anything on the overworld, it's probably fine. Otherwise, there's few minor glitches that are also expected, such as fake flippers, Dungeon Bunny Revival, and various other things. We'll point them out as we come across them.
Yep. Yeah, and some of these glitches involve the screen getting a little weird, so if you see some screens wrapping, don't be too alarmed unless it's infinitely wrapping, then the runner might be a little alarmed.
Yeah, the game does not like triggering transitions unless they are at the actual transition point, and you'll see this often. And you'll actually see that Zero Rush did a downward teleport there, so we can get onto some out-of-bounds cliffs and do this quick fake flipper over to Hobo. Now, the teleports that we do on these cliffs are only done on the slopes and on very precise pixels. We use the boots, as well as holding out our sword, or lack thereof, to clip into the slopes little by little till we get to those precise positions. It sounds a lot harder than it really is.
Yeah, one thing to note, if you want to try to practice stuff at home, when you're clipping to the left, it's a bit easier than clipping to the right, as clipping to the left, I believe it moves you 2 pixels in at a time, and
yes,
right
correct.
is only 1.
Yeah, that's correct. That's due to Link's movement pattern, that the very first movement moving up or left is always 2 pixels, and the very first movement moving right or down is only 1. So it carries over to when you're doing the teleporting clips. And here we have Death Mountain Ascent by Chexhuman. He's going and rescuing the old man while in the dark, kicking up some dust to make sure he knows where he's going. Meanwhile, Zero Rush is going and checking the Lumberjack. I didn't quite see what Chex saw up there. I was in the middle of something and wasn't paying attention.
Lumberjack was trash. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't anything good.
Yeah, 50 rupees is nothing we need to worry about. Ooh, a blue potion. That's actually kind of interesting in terms of overworld glitches, because we do have access to using overworld YBAs. We don't have to in order to beat the seed, but they are available to us, and we'll get into them in case one of our runners decides to utilize that. And here we have Chexhuman doing the downward teleport with the boulders raining down on top of him. And he gets it.
So that's the one way. There's another clip that you can do that involves speed or spin speed, but well, we may see Zero Rush do that. I know Chex is a fan of doing the boot clipping method,
and he's farming up a few bombs and such here. But with Death Mountain and access and most of the Light World already in access, we can actually reach every single location on the overworld from the word go in the Light World. There are some clips that are not expected that you can do, such as getting to the Mimic Cave without the mirror. I doubt we'll see that, but it is always a fun time to see what kind of clips the runners decide to employ in their routes.
And so Zero Rush is starting in on the Kakariko Village checks. You know, a lot of times when you see these races, you know, it's up to the runners what they want to do for their initial setups. Some may go straight to Kak. You know, some may set up the Death Mountain save point. But eventually they'll all get to Kakariko Town at some point.
Yeah, some people do like to delay it a bit more because the more items you find, the greater chance you have of finding things like the bottle or enough rupees or even just enough bombs.
Yeah, another common start in Overworld glitches, because you have the boots, is going straight to Saha. You can get into his closet without any bombs or anything like that.
Right, and get a bunch of info that way. Well, we find silvers, bombos, and our first swords so far in Kakariko. Not really pulling us toward any particular location yet.
So one thing we'll be looking for is there's flippers on the library. So one thing we'll be looking for is either the Moon Pearl or the Mirror. Both of those mean Dark World access for our runners.
Well, logical access to the Dark World. We have access to the Dark World if we want right now, but that would take using some select buffered clips, which some people tend to not employ. They are a bit tricky to get down when you're starting out.
And yeah, and they may not be a wise choice in a race setting.
Yeah, especially because you are guaranteed to have either the Mirror or the Moon Pearl to reach the main land of the Dark World. So it's better to try to find those things, as they are a great. They offer you even greater access than just being able to clip normally with your select buffered clips and all that.
So we may see Zero go to desert here, and yep, looks like he's going over to the desert area. You can jump from here and head into desert and full clear it if you have a fire source.
Nonetheless, we do know that it doesn't matter if it's boots locked because we do have the boots already. So that helps us out a lot to clear out desert the first time through.
Also, another thing to note, having a sword for these clips does help a lot, because there's different ways to buffer your teleports, because you have to hit specific directions on the same frame. So what is usually done is you charge up. Oh, there's the Moon Pearl.
That's a nice find early on. But as you're saying with the teleports, once you get to the precise position, you do also have to input usually a diagonal into the slope as the very first frame of movement. And you can just on the fly do that, but it's a lot easier to hold a diagonal movement while you're slashing or while you're releasing a spin or something to get that teleport every single time.
Yeah, you can do it without a buffer if you're precise enough.
Here we have Chex clipping down. I think he's going to try to get the race game item without actually going through the race game.
Yeah, Chex is a dirty cheater.
Only at this little mini game here. Yeah, it's not good enough. He's just going to skip it and just kind of hop down to desert. Still, that early Moon Pearl is a great find, because just as we have pretty much all access to the Light World, as soon as you get the Moon Pearl, you have pretty much all access to the Dark World. So this seed is very open at the moment.
Yeah. There's certain things that are restricted by, like, say, gloves in logic, such as Hookshot Cave. But there are ways to get into Hookshot Cave without the gloves, just those wouldn't be in logic.
All right, so Chex has his Moon Pearl, while zerorush is checking out Agina. Both of them have the flippers, the bombos, the sword. Again, not really anything pulling them toward any particular direction or dungeon, just kind of clearing out what they can.
Yeah, this is the early hunt for tools. You may feel comfortable with a certain set of things that help, there are a lot of things that you can access with glitches, even if it's a sequence break, but sometimes they're a pain to set up, and having the proper tools to access the areas is a bit better.
One of the common areas for that is Ice Palace. Although we don't like to see mitts in overworld glitches for various reasons, it does make actually entering that place a lot easier, as we don't have to go through some hoops with some other glitches and clips that are somewhat tricky.
Yeah, also that early moon pearl means it's gonna rob us of some of the shenanigans that you can pull as a bunny. Those are always fun to watch.
Yeah, especially with that blue potion that we got from the old man, or at least that Chex got from the old man. We won't be seeing any of that this time, or at least not the full extent of it anyway.
And Zero gonna give us a peek at what's in the mini Moldorm cave. Ooh, we got a cane of Samaria, so that'll give access to some areas in Turtle Rock.
Yeah, we do have access to a lot of areas in Turtle Rock because there are those ledges right above there, and we can clip down to them somewhat. We can get to the middle ledge fairly easily with the big chest and all that, but the lower one is a little trickier. We have a unique item in Palace of Darkness, given the hint in Tower of Hera there.
So
And
checks.
He's going to go ahead and get those bombs. He can top himself up here real quick. Or maybe not.
Yep, and now he's going to check the inside of Spectacle Rock. Meanwhile, Zero is doing a water walk over here. Gonna head on up to the waterfall area.
Now, the water walk is kind of stunted when you have the flippers. It doesn't quite work as well for you.
Alright, so Chex looks like he's going to set up to go to East Death Mountain here.
One of the favorite parts of Overworld glitches is learning that there's this convenient land bridge that's not really ever seen from down below, but it's just there, and you can use it. You can use it all the time. It's in both worlds. It connects the east to the west side, and is fairly easy to get to if you can do the clips normally. It's just so weird and convenient.
One thing about that clip that is a source of frustration as you may learn it. It's a lot of times, with your clips, it's just like a simple teleport. Oh, there's Zero Rush picking up the mirror on Zora Ledge. But for that clip in particular, you get stuck on the slope, so you have to hit right, down, and left in repeated fashion. And if you hit up, you're going to get stuck.
Yeah, it's one of the weird things about kind of being in a wall in this game is that it will always try to push you in the opposite direction that you're facing. You can use that to your advantage, as we do in that clip to get to East Death Mountain that way. But it's kind of tricky to get your head wrapped around it initially. And you see Zero Rush using a spin speed to try to get through this little slope here. He's trying to get to Tower of Hera, I think, by doing that. He's doing a slightly different way of getting up Death Mountain, and you might hear some water here. Oh, I might have talked over it there. But he is actually kind of wrapped up at the very top of the map and jumps down into Tower of Hera there, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, one thing about this game is, with spin speed, when you activate spin speed, which, a lot of people know how to do that one. You can walk through angled corners a lot of the time, and some of them takes a little bit of doing, like the ones that are angled outward, but the ones that are angled inward, you can pretty much just slide right out at the corner.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly the game gets broken with just that aspect. Now, with the mirror, I'm wondering what Zero is going to do first when he reaches the Dark World, because with that mirror, he can actually go and check the Pyramid Fairy right away without even needing either of the red crystals, which is one of the staple parts of playing Overworld glitches. And here we see Chex doing something that we call the funny auto walk glitch. It's something that has to do with where you trigger certain transitions that he just kind of walks halfway across the screen, just ignoring everything along the way.
Yep, and Chex showing one of the many applications of these clips, going from Death Mountain to Eastern in about 5 seconds.
I kind of missed what Zerorush was trying to do and how he got stuck there. He was trying to do some sort of screen wrap, but I don't know what he was trying to accomplish at the time. Nope, he did a downward teleport. He did not quite get stuck, though, because there was a convenient ledge he could hop down.
And Check's going to go ahead and check out the dam and probably the rest of South Shore area. Zerorush doing a DMA. DMA is short for Death Mountain Ascent.
There's a lot of them in the world, and the main one that you learn first off, especially if you're speedrunning the game, is the one that takes you to Old Man, the one that Zerorush did there. That one is actually kind of weird, because you have to teleport over the transition going up, and then make your way to the transition to the right. And then after you do that, you actually have to scroll the screen down. If you don't scroll the screen down enough, then when you try to transition into the Old Man's cave, the transition for some reason takes an extra 2 minutes. Now Zerorush has his bottle of blue goo, and I'm wondering what he's going to do here.
Looks like Hera.
He's resetting his camera at the very least. That's one thing that you do kind of learn with this game is there are kind of two types of entrances: the main dungeons and caves, and then the ancillary ones. The main ones will reset your camera and positioning when you enter and exit them. However, the ancillary caves do not. And being able to learn the difference between them is actually pretty important when you wind up breaking the screen as much as you do with Overworld glitches.
So it looks like Zerorush is trying to get over to East Death Mountain, having a little trouble with that clip. Again, right-hand clips can be a little tricky.
Yeah, it's easy to hold a button for just a little too long, and you have so many extra inputs to do, because usually teleports are 8 or 9 pixels into the slope, and moving 1 pixel at a time, you got to do that same frame input of left or right plus A 8 or 9 times in order to get far enough into the slope.
Yeah, one of the little tricks that a lot of people like to employ is holding the controller perpendicular to the way you'd normally hold it, and then just hitting the right and A button with the same hand.
Yeah, that's something that I do when I'm doing the right-hand clips. I don't do it for left-hand clips, mainly because you do move twice as fast, and so it's kind of a diminishing return sort of thing. We're just cleaning up the spots that the other has already checked. Check's going through the Zora area. Zerorush cleaning up Death Mountain. Still no peeks into the Dark World yet, which I'm kind of surprised about.
Yeah, one thing we will see is there will be at a point where our runners visit GT well before they have a lot of crystals, if any.
Yeah, if any. And we'll probably just bypass that cutscene anyway because it's slow.
Yeah, because sometimes there can be progression in GT.
Especially since they got rid of the junk fill that used to be up in there. In a lot of modes, there's a pre-done junk fill in GT that fills it with about 15 or so items, like your red rupees, your 3 bombs, your 10 arrows, and all that. That gets taken away when you get into the glitched modes because you're expected to be able to get into Ganon's tower much earlier than usual.
And it looks like Chex is going to do Pyramid here.
Yeah, he does have his screen wrapped at the moment. That's how you can tell because he doesn't. Oh no, he's doing something else. He's doing the Death Mountain Super Drop. This is a fan favorite for me. So there's some weird collision on Death Mountain here, and he's jumping down through a bunch of solid collision and wrapping the screen many, many times. And when he transitions over, he's all the way at the bottom of the world. That is one of my favorite clips, not just because I'm the one that found it.
Well, there you go. Showing off some great tech, and Zero Rush, like as we said, is in GT.
Yeah, he does have the Cane of Samaria, although he doesn't have a fire source. There is a few things you can check here, but not too terribly much.
Yeah, the interesting thing about how kind of the technical side of that super jump is, I don't know the full details, but the basics is, when you screen wrap, the game registers your actual position as if you're continuing down the map, whereas your screen doesn't change, and you can kind of bypass collision that way.
Sort of. To put it a better way, the game keeps track of Link's position in 2 ways, locally and globally. Locally meaning that it's on the same overworld screen the entire time, but there's also a global aspect to it. And as he was kind of jumping down and wrapping the screen over and over, Link's position on the overall world map was going further and further down. Which is consequently how we wind up getting to the Pyramid Fairy with only the mirror in this particular mode. Now, we haven't been able to really show that off yet, but that's kind of the premise behind it.
Yeah, because if you were to check your world map as you were doing that, you would see your Link's, icon actually go down the world.
Such as right now, Zero Rush is kind of in line with the Sanctuary before he entered Hera there, or the graveyard at least. But again, entering Tower of Hera, at least without any kind of entrance shuffling, will reset your camera and positioning and fixing all those kinds of conflicts. It's amazing when you kind of start exploring the technical details of this game, how it just refuses to die in certain aspects.
So Zero Rush might give us a check-in Turtle Rock here.
I think he's going to check out Hookshot Cave and Super Bunny real quick. And another consequence of Overworld glitches is the Mire Rain. The game doesn't actually have time to load in the overlay that it uses for the rain outside of Mire unless you go inside of an entrance or something. And it doesn't have that loaded perpetually, so it just kind of grabs what it can. But luckily, once you go inside of Mire Cave, it fixes itself.
Yep. And one of the staples of an Overworld glitch run is being able to fluteless mire, as we call it.
Yeah, the flute is entirely a luxury item.
And Zero Rush gonna try to do some hovers.
Meanwhile, Chexhuman is still kind of continuing up north from the swamp area, heading into Village of Outcasts for the first time. And Zero Rush gets that first hover, finding the Ether that he knows is now hookshot locked. And there's the hammer inside Village of Outcasts.
Yeah, there are a lot of things, by the way, that are in logic that, are totally game breaking in a normal, non-glitch setting. But one thing that shares a similarity with those is dark rooms are still out of logic.
Yes, dark rooms and bomb jumps are not in the overworld glitches or even the major glitches logic, at least at the moment. Okay, so Zero Rush is going to go ahead and open up Turtle Rock, it looks like. Something we don't see all too often in overworld glitches, but it can help if you're trying to reach those front chests a lot quicker, although he can only really reach one reliably, missing when he's lacking the fire rod right now. We find the mushroom inside of Thieves Town.
So yeah, you also may see just a lot of wandering around from our runners, and it might be hard to follow what they're doing. But a lot of times you'll see them just trying to collect all their go mode items and then just like hammer out dungeons, or if it comes down to it, start dipping into dungeons.
Especially with some of them being in access so early, such as Turtle Rock when you have the Moon Pearl here, as well as Thieves Town again when you have the Moon Pearl.
Yeah, it is your common, in a no glitches setting, your common routes of where you might expect people to go. That doesn't exist in overworld glitches. The runners will go where they please at any time.
Yeah, the restrictions that are normally in place on the overworld are almost completely relaxed. There are still a few things in place, but a lot of them have been kind of removed due to just how easy it is to get around the world when you have the boots. For instance, getting down to Turtle Rock like that. Now, luckily, he is... Oh, I don't know if that opens up the door there. I don't think it does, because... Oh, he does have a fairy, so he's fine.
You can bomb that door open. I've done it before.
Yeah, you can, but I wasn't sure if it would have lasted since he died from that bomb blast.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the door isn't truly open until you get that jingle.
Hacksaw in chat pointing out, always do Turtle Rock back to front. There is some wisdom in that, because you can skip the need of at least one small key by going in through the back of the Chain Chomp room.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing when you do the Ice Palace bomb jump and kind of backtrack from the Cold Stair area to the main part as if you're going to Ice Tea or something. There's a couple of key doors that you kind of just walk through as you're coming upstairs. The same thing happens in Turtle Rock.
And this is seen in inverted modes as well. And there's our Turtle Rock big key, so Zero Rush can go all the way to Laser Bridge if he pleases.
Yeah, he can, although he is lacking the lamp, so it is also out of logic at the moment. Meanwhile, Chex is finishing up Thieves Town here with the blind fight. And we have a bow in Turtle Rock.
That's a big find right there.
Now, what's actually really interesting is if he can make his way back to the the main Turtle Rock entrance, which he might do with a mirror or something, he can actually get to Pod and Eastern very, very quickly from that Turtle Rock entrance if he so wishes. So it could be interesting to see him go for that. Although he will be missing the hammer, so he can't quite fully complete Pod. He can get everything but Helmasaur done.
And it looks like he's having a little bit of a trouble navigating that dark room.
He's going to give it another go here. Meanwhile, Chex is buying a red potion, going ahead and emptying his blue one. Are we going to see an Overworld YBA to the Smith here?
Yep, that is one of the many uses for YBA, and Smith is one of the more annoying checks to make without those Titan Smiths. So I prefer the YBA method. There is the mirror wrap method, which is complex to kind of explain.
Not like the
Without
YBA method is any,
visuals.
not like the YBA method is any less complex to explain. Because the way YBAs work on the Overworld is really, really tricky and weird. But as far as what really happens is you use YBA there, going into the mire screen, it changes the collision so you can go collect the frog. That's all I can really say at the moment, because it can go a lot further than that. Now, for those of you who are wondering, YBA actually stands for Yuzuhara Bottle Adventure, named for the Japanese tasser who initially discovered that using a potion on the same frame as a transition causes weird things to happen.
Yeah, there are many uses for YBAs. Indoor glitches we won't get into, but certain things can happen, such as Dark World. If you use a blue, it'll open up the flute.
Not necessarily, at least in terms of the underworld. On the overworld, it will always use the flute. And it looks like that Chex is just draining his magic by using bombos in the same frame as releasing a spin, or very close to it. And he's doing that so he can use that mushroom in a fake powder sense in the bat cave here. And he's gone ahead and show us a clip to get over there without the hammer, even though he already has it in his inventory.
Because hammering things is just too hard sometimes.
Meanwhile, we have Zero Rush in Hyrule Castle, going through the sewers here to check the chest. He does not have the small key, so he can't quite get to the back half, but he does have the glove, so he could do that instead.
And that hook shot is a big find there, so we'll give access to left side of GT. While you can bomb jump around that area, it's quite a bit easier to use the hook shot.
And that also does put the ether that Zero Rush found in Hookshot Cave into Logic. So we do have an access for that. You'd have to go to Thieves Town. Actually, no, it's not in Logic. We don't have the powder yet. Until we get the powder, that's still not in Logic.
I mean, the mushroom is ground into a powder, so I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, right?
Not quite. You could lose your mushroom first before checking into the Bat Cave there. So for that reason, it's not in Logic to do the fake powder there. So now we're doing a little more dungeon diving. Chexhuman opting to go through Skull Woods as Zero Rush is making his way through Eastern.
Yeah, so Zero will no doubt clear this out with the bow.
And he's got plenty of hearts, so I assume that the dark rooms shouldn't be too much of a problem for him.
So now, one thing that as mentioned before, one thing we won't need is the Titan's mitts. It's actually kind of interesting on how far you can get without having any gloves whatsoever. You can actually complete a seed if all of the if all the items are in the right place, and Ice Palace is not a crystal. You can complete the entire seed without gloves at all.
Well, really, the only things that strictly require the gloves at all are the checkerboard and cold stare. Everything else you could get without it through some means or another. At least in terms of overworld glitches.
Yeah, same thing with the hook shot. It's not technically needed, but well, for logic it is. But unless Swamp is a crystal, it's not really needed. Because there's all manner of hovering and bomb jumps that you can do to bypass the need for any other, any other thing that the hook shot is required for.
So far, not finding anything of value in either of these dungeons, from what I can tell. Zero Rush nearly done with Eastern, and Chex can't quite finish Skull, missing that fire rod, can't hit the last couple of it, the last area there.
I think that's the first time I've seen the chicken hut hint. Zero Rush finding the hint tile, a piece of heart is with the chickens. So, Chex headed back up to Death Mountain here. Let's see.
Looks like he's going to go... Oh, no. I thought he was going to go for the Spike Cave. He does have the Cane of Birna. Oh, he doesn't have gloves. He never picked that up. I forget where Zero Rush got them. But he does have that over at Chex at the moment.
So we're going to see a GT dip.
And he does have the hammer, so he can check the left side more so than what Zero Rush could do on his first trip.
Yeah, no fire source, though, so...
Oh, that's where the gloves were. They were in GT.
Yep. No fire source, so we'll only be able to check tile room on the right side.
Zero Rush gets his first crystal. As Chex waits out the tile room.
Alright, looks like Zero is going to go for that graveyard ledge.
Now, the clip he did there is actually a bit more precise than it looks. There is a very precise positioning that you need to get the jump that he got there from that slope. There is a setup for it, but unless you know that setup, it's a 50-50 shot, just due to how jumping through ledges works. And it's usually one of the more commonly asked clips for new people to figure out when they're doing overworld glitches, because it's not obvious what you need to do that. So we have another sword in the Stalfos room here for GT.
Derpy Squid in chat asking, wouldn't Ice Palace be a pendant because Glove is required to beat it? And if Glove is in GT, doesn't that mean an Ice Palace can't be a crystal? In Overworld glitches, we have access to Ice Palace, or a GT without the crystals. So, in logic, it could be the fact that you need to go to GT first to get the items required to beat Ice Palace.
Yeah, logical access to GT does not require the crystals. Now, you still need to collect all the crystals in order for Ganon's final phase to be fully vulnerable, but they are not needed for climbing the tower. There is still logic in overworld glitches, but it's just the requirements are different from those in your regular modes that do not require glitches like overworld glitches does.
Yeah, such as logically, if I remember correctly, you still need the Titan's Mitts to access Ice Palace, even though you can access it without the Titans.
Yes, because the other methods of getting into Ice Palace are outside of the scope of what we deemed accessible for the overworld glitches logic. At least in terms of just the execution parts, we tried to avoid as many hard locking clips as we could, because it's just not really fun to be required to do them over and over and over. Now you can still utilize them to your heart's content because they are glitches on the overworld. It's just we do not expect runners to be able to do them because of the risky nature. Now, what I mean by hard locking clips are those that wind up with Link in an infinite scroll. Now, that infinite scroll, you cannot bring up your select menu or anything out of it. So any unsaved progress you had is gone forever because you have to reset your console to get out of it.
And Check's doing everyone's favorite, a sword Armos fight. So
Sword teams are actually very effective against the Armos Knights if you don't have the bow.
Yep, it just takes a while.
Pretty much any weapon except for... Actually, Birna is pretty good. The Cane of Birna. That's probably the second best weapon to use against Armos other than the bow and arrows.
So Zero Rush making the Village of Outcast checks, so we'll probably find their hammer. And Check's picking up half magic, so that's a little bit of comfort of, I guess.
Zero Rush might also get the mushroom out of Thieves' Town, which could prompt him to go to the Bat Cave as well. He does have the mirror, so it wouldn't be too far out of the way for him. And we are still lacking that fire source, either the lamp or the fire rod, so we still can't quite reach the top of Tower of Hera, despite going up there to fix our camera so many times.
And Check's going over to East Death Mountain. I'm not sure if this is his first trip or if he's been here before, but we'll probably see a Turtle Rock dive out of here too.
Yeah, he'll probably come across the bow before heading out of this area, going all the way through the crystal rollers like Zero Rush did. Meanwhile, Zero Rush is cleaning up Thieves' Town. He got the mushroom out of there and is going to probably finish the dungeon from here.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that Chex didn't clip to Laser Bridge first.
I think he wanted to clear out these couple of caves first, because once you get to Laser Bridge, you're kind of orphaned there for a moment, and he doesn't have the best access of getting back to the Dark World at the moment. Because he does not have the mitts, which he would need to lift the Dark Rock at the bottom of this, of East Death Mountain. Looks like instead of going into Turtle Rock, he's going down to Catfish, using another one of those funny auto-walk things.
Yeah, that's one of the easiest DMAs to do. You just literally activate spin speed and just walk off that corner and you're there. That's all you need to do. Did I say DMA? I meant DMD, Death Mountain Descent.
Yeah, it's The acronyms are so similar.
Alright, so let's see what's on this mushroom. Just a pack of bombs.
Alright, so Chex decides to refill his potion with red. Does he have another one? Oh, he has a fairy. He's getting a red and a blue. I wonder if he has stuff in plan for using those. Because that's one thing you kind of got to ask yourself with these glitch modes is he really buying that potion for safety or for other utilizations?
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely when you see what kind of potion runners buy in Overworld glitches, it kind of gives you an idea of what they might be doing with it. Because different potions, when you're doing YBAs, have different effects sometimes.
Well, in the overworld, the reds and greens are the same, and then the blue calls the flute. So as long as you know what the effects are going to be, you can use them, but determining the red and blue or the red and green effects can be kind of tricky at times unless you know them beforehand.
And I don't know about you, but I find a lot of times people, when I've seen people doing runs, that Hyrule Castle is one of those places that kind of gets orphaned for a while.
Yeah, that seems especially so in overworld glitches, just because you have access to anywhere else from the word go. So Zero Rush cleaning up the blind fight, collecting his second crystal. Now, where does he go from here? Is he going to go ahead and finish up the Bat Cave? Go check out Skull Woods for a little bit? Still need to find that fire rod.
And Chex finding the Tempered Sword in the first chest of the Escape Dungeon.
Zero taking one look at that frog and thinking, oh, I need something else here, don't I?
Perhaps. Or just saying, I'll come back for you. But yeah, that fire rod is gonna tell a lot of the rest of this seed, because it'll get us a lot of indoor dungeon access that we don't have right now.
Yeah, a couple of chests in Turtle Rock, a few chests in GT, the entirety of the upstairs of Hera, the Landmola's section of deserts, just all kinds of places.
And Zero Rush gonna check Hype Cave here. Meanwhile, Chex is headed over in that same direction.
No, didn't he already check Hype Cave? He was in this area.
Yeah.
He might be just going for Swamp right now. He does have all the items he needs to clear it out now.
He did get a hint that there was a unique item in Swamp, which was the hint in Swamp. Could it be our fire rod?
Or could it be the Quake Medallion?
Or Could it be the book, the ice rod? It can't be the book because book requires Canis Mario, wherever that is.
Yeah, I think it's either Turtle Rock or the right side of Ganon's tower. Possibly Vitreous. Looks like Zerorush is going to go ahead and dip into Palace of Darkness here. We haven't set foot in it yet, even though Chex did do the DMD to Catfish. There is a nice little clip to kind of bypass this whole hedge maze area, or most of it anyway. But he decided to go ahead and drop off the mushroom and a couple of other things. So this will be our first look into Palace of Darkness.
I would say that there's a strong chance that there's a fire source here, probably a lamp in Swamp, due to kind of the amount of dark rooms that we have and what the seed is given so far. But you know, that's just basically trying to read overworld glitch logic is a lesson in madness sometimes. There's a general idea of everything, and then unless you're really good at reading logic, a lot of it is just kind of rando.
Yeah, with things being so much more open, you have fewer locks holding things back, and so with it being more open, it's a lot easier for items to be in faraway locations.
But if there was a fire source here, I would not be surprised. Meanwhile, Zerorush headed up the Bowlock side and gonna get us a peek as to what's inside these chests here. Chex doing left side swamp. Not a lot of people like to do that, but I'm a big believer in left side swamp. It's always let me down every time, but the one time I don't do it is going to be the time that I'm going to get played. That's the way I feel.
A lot of people feel the same way about the fire-locked chests in Mire.
All right, left side swamp. What you got? Are you gonna pay off today? Meanwhile, Zero is gonna head on to the back of Pod.
He hasn't found anything in Pod either, so we're a bit dry in both of these dungeons. There's the mitts.
While that doesn't outright open pretty much anything that Zerorush didn't already have access to, sometimes it can be of a convenience.
Yeah, just giving you an easier access to the Dark World. I mean, they already had that with the Gloves and Hammer, but just having all types of access to the Dark World, including that of Ice Palace, just makes certain things a lot easier in the long run.
Yeah, I always hate those seeds where your proper Dark World access doesn't show up until like the mid seed where you have to keep going back to Death Mountain if you ever want to go to the Dark World.
That's one of the things about glitch logic. All of the roads lead to Hera some way or another.
And there's the shovel.
That could be our unique item that was in Swamp. And there's our powder in the Rupee hallway of Palace of Darkness. Oh wait, no, he's in the Dark Maze. Never mind. He's in the Dark Maze and found the powder there.
So the lamp is not back here.
Yeah, so the lamp is not hookshot locked, so we're not going to see it off of Argus here.
And it won't be on the shovel either.
All right, so Chex is going for the zero cycle. Oh, he dropped his hook dash there. Didn't quite get the zero cycle. Zerorush still making his way through the dark maze and pod. Got the other chest down there. He does have the big key. He's going to go ahead and get the big chest now.
Oh, there wasn't even an item on Argus, but Check's going to pick up the green pendant and wonder if he'll head to pod with that.
I'm not sure. He is still missing the bow. The bow that we know is in Turtle Rock, past the big key door.
So it looks like he's going back for the big chest.
Meanwhile, Zerorush is gearing up to do the basement of Palace of Darkness without Fire Rod, without Lamp. I wish him luck with those turtles.
Turtle party in the dark.
He doesn't even have a tempered sword to help him there. Still stuck with the fighters.
If only he had a bee.
You know, I never thought of using a bee to help figure out where those turtles are. That's interesting.
Yeah. It was, I was watching the previous race, and one of the runners used it to figure out where the turtles were.
That's one thing I love about this game, is that there's just so many ways to do things that you'll just learn something if you watch long enough.
Cane of Samaria. That one. Where was Cane?
It was in the mini Moldorm cave, I believe.
That sounds right to me. So let's see. Let's try to back into things. So we got an early Cane. So that gave us kind of access to Turtle Rock, but we found the bow there. There wasn't anything in Eastern. So I guess the bow really didn't lead to the lamp on its own. But it led to the powder.
So yeah, where is this lamp? Could it be in the back three chests here of Escape? I don't think Zerorush checked these yet.
Yeah, I would think that at this point, lamp might be in Sphere 1.
Although it could be an Ice Palace, now that I think about it, because we got... Where did we get Bombos from? That was pretty early on. We got our potion from the old man, so that wasn't in the dark. So we had Bombos, we had Pearl, we had Hammer.
I think...
And we had Gloves in GT and Mitts in the non-dark section of Pod. So it could be an Ice Palace.
Yeah, I think we got Bombos in Paradox. I could be wrong, though.
I think you're correct about that. That sounds about right. Alright, so Chex is finished up with the escape section. Where is Zerorush heading? Is he going to go... I think he's going to Ice Palace now.
Yeah, we did get early flippers, too.
Well, flippers aren't needed for Ice Palace
True.
by logic and overworld glitches. You are expected to know how to fake flipper.
And Titans were in Pod in the light. Yeah, I think Ice is a good candidate for a fire source, at least.
So it looks like Chex is finally going to Sahasrara, I would guess? Or is he going to go ahead and just go through Eastern? Where are you going, Chex?
Looks like he's probably gonna hit the Dark World, mirror back into Sahasrara from the maze, and then go do a pod Eastern combo thing. That's my guess. Yeah, one thing about finding that lamp is in Overworld glitches, because you can do so much, and in terms of like a non-glitched seed, there are a few sequence breaks you can do that don't really totally throw everything out of line. You kind of can keep track of when you broke the sequence and try to piece together logic from there. But in Overworld glitches, there's a lot more you can do to sequence break. So trying to make sense of the logic is very kind of important to try to track down some of these items.
Well, actually, I'd argue that you can sequence break a lot more in the no glitches seed, just because there are so many things that are open to you in Overworld glitches. So when you do sequence break, it is probably better to keep track of it, because you can at least try to knock out a lot of areas, kind of like what we were trying to do with figuring out where the lamp is.
Zero Rush getting that hint that there's a unique item in Turtle Rock, and he knows what's in Turtle Rock. I don't remember if there was an item on Trinex, but I'm sure he can deduce that that was the bow.
Well, not only that, he hasn't been able to get through the torch chests that are near the entrance, lacking the fire rod.
And Check's going to do potion glitch here. Yeah, seemingly Zero Rush having a good advantage right now at having found that bow.
And there's our ice rod in the Ice Palace. Seems fitting.
Wouldn't it be funny to have both of the rods here?
It is possible.
Alright, so Zero Rush gonna go down to Ice Tea now. Meanwhile, Check's gonna skip the bomb jump, it looks like. Looked like he might have been setting up for it for a moment.
He does pick up his mitts, though. Now, he has already checked the smith. He hasn't gone back for the purple chest. Now, we find the Quake Medallion. Did we find an item in the first chest with all the pen gators? Because that would be our second item in Ice Palace so far.
I don't remember. If it was an item, it wasn't anything groundbreaking, at least. And Zero Rush looks like he's going to go for the bomb through the floor strats. Alright, that's it except for cold stairs, so...
Meanwhile, Check's nearly done with his check through Palace of Darkness here. Can't quite finish it, lacking that bow that we know is in Turtle Rock. But he is going to go ahead and clear out Eastern right now, as much as he can. And Zerorush has barely enough magic to get that Bombos shot off to melt the shell around Cold Stare.
But does have a blue, so...
Well, it doesn't really help him to have any more magic than he does.
I mean, you could just, you know, Bombos and Rage during the fight.
I guess. Ooh,
Oop.
misses that first bit where you could get them all grouped together. So he's got quite the fight ahead of him here. He's got to hit each of these guys 8 times.
How do you handle a situation like this? I always focus on one. You know, some people, they just kind of go with whatever's closest and try to keep them all away from them.
If you have the hammer as your main source of damage, I would focus one down, because when you have less to dodge, you have less to worry about. There's our lamp!
So that makes a whole lot of sense out of the seed now.
Yeah,
but...
so you're supposed to get the mitts out of Palace of Darkness, so you could get the lamp, so you could get the powder, so you could get the hook shot, so you could get Ether Medallion, which I know we saw the Myra Medallion pad, but I don't remember what it was. We saw it for just a split second while Chex had the rainy graphics being glitched out.
So now comes the good old a charm of overworld glitches. Trying to track down one of your last items, and as the logic starts to get open wider and wider, finding that one item you need seems to get harder and harder.
Now, Zero, please tell me you didn't get stuck on those pegs there. I've seen it happen too many times. I've done it too many times, getting stuck on that bottom peg like that. I hope he hasn't been. Alright, he's fine.
You know what's fun? Having to be pinned back there without a sword and trying to defend yourself without a sword or a boomerang. I had to do that once. But we're still gonna need that fire rod for Skull Woods here.
Yeah, that's the very last item that we need for this seed to be completable. And with all the, well, actually, there's not too many places that opened up from getting the lamp, specifically, outside of the dark rooms that we've already done. There's the Tower of Hera here, there's deserts, and that's kind of it. Maybe Myra if we go into there.
And it does look like Chex is doing the laser bridge clip there, so...
Yeah, I kind of missed it. I was focusing on what Zerorush was finding in Hera. I assume he did the mirror wrap.
It looked like it.
So, that's another one of those glitches that is allowed in Overworld glitches, but is not required out of you. Mirror wraps are kind of strange because when you do them, and you transition back, it kind of places you halfway across the Overworld screen, which is convenient in a lot of areas, Laser Bridge being one of them, Ice Palace being another. And it's just helpful for getting into those really locked off areas, because they like to put them just kind of smack dab in the middle of a screen.
Yep. And with that, Zerorush will probably head to Meyer at this point, and Chex finally finding that bow, so gotta be happy about that. Can start clean some more things out.
Actually, this looks like a GT clear from Zero Rush. You can probably do the bomb jump for the right-hand side and fully clear the rest of the basement here along with the full left side, because he wasn't here with the hammer last time.
Yeah, this is probably the right play here, because with so many items being in GT, and you won't have any dungeons to do up here. You won't have to finish Turtle Rock. Well, we hope we won't.
We won't, because we need Fire Rod.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but yeah, so you won't really need to come back up to Death Mountain. So you might as well do Aga 2 at this point and activate Ganon while you're looking for that Fire Rod.
Yeah, because we do still have to beat Aghanim 2, which is the other requirement for Ganon to be vulnerable in his last phase. Between that and the 7 crystals.
Yeah, and we have seen Zero Rush can hover, so that Moldorm 2 crossing won't be an issue. Yeah, we may even see Zero Rush clear out the right side using the lamp bomb jump strats.
Or he could hover that too.
Yeah, you could. However you get to that final torch on the right there is yours to choose.
Oh yeah, Azur is bringing up a good point in chat. He might not need to do the right side of GT because that is logically requiring the Fire Rod, and since that's what we're looking for, he probably doesn't need to do it.
That is true.
Although I forget if he has the big key or not for GT, or if Chex found that when he went through the left side all the way through Ice Armos.
And it looks like Chex is... Oh, did he not clear out Turtle Rock in full?
No, because he came in through Laser Bridge, he has to kind of work around to get back to the big chest. Yeah. And he did not get the same hint that Zero Rush did in Ice Palace about the Mimic Cave being just arrows, so he's going to go and check that real quick.
And Zero Rush with silvers and a bows. Gonna have much faster time at this one.
At least he did pick up his sword upgrade from the Stalfos room. So he is good to go for Ganon on that. Okay, so the big key is on the right-hand side. So we do still need to do the bomb jump and such, which means we're not going to find the Fire Rod upstairs here.
Which means this... It looks like he's still going to do it. Oh, well, he hasn't checked Tile Room yet.
I thought he did when he first came through, because he had the Cane of Samaria then. Yeah,
oh,
he checked
he did. I thought it was just Chex that did it. Yep, and it does look like we're going lamp strats here, so...
Meanwhile, armed with the bow, Chex is heading back into Pod and Eastern to clear out those 2 dungeons. Finish them up.
Alright, here we go. Start the clock. Let's see if you can do it in time.
I mean, you can do this without hookshot or boots, although both of those certainly make it easier. Either way, the timing is still quite tight. Ooh, that damage is kind of worrying. Yeah.
that stray Gibdo messed him up a bit. And Check's gonna go ahead and clear out Helmosaur. Zero has said, I've had enough of this place. I don't need to be here. So I would suspect Mire play at this point. It's a crystal. You got a couple checks you can do there. So why not get it done while you're looking for that fire rod? And Zero using one of those convenient spin clips to get over the wall a little bit faster.
Although if he was really doing the proper all dungeon strats, he'd do the bomb clip instead. Just saying. And there we see a nice little instance of the game's ledge hopping engine, how it's done algorithmically rather than anything else. Zerorush jumped from one ledge and landed on another ledge of the same height. I love this game.
Alright, so into Mire. It doesn't look like Zero's came here for the Mire Shed yet.
Yeah, this is his first trip to this part of the world right now. And I did see Ether on Mire, so that was another thing that was lamp locked, essentially. So Mire was entirely lamp locked.
So that's part of the progression chain. And we may find Fire Rod here.
We're running out of places for it to be.
Has anyone checked Ice Rod yet?
Yeah, Zerorush definitely checked that earlier on, because he armed a water walk out of that cave.
Oh, yeah. So, I just want to clarify for those out there that, aren't too familiar with Overworld glitch seeds. I would have to say that Zerorush has a pretty significant advantage, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he does have the full Ice Palace clear over Chex at the moment, and while he didn't quite clear out GT, he does have most of the basement done at this point. Granted, Chex does too, so there's not too much difference between them there anymore. And Zerorush does also have Eastern and Pod done, as Chex is finishing those up now. He also has Tower of Hera done, which means an entire tile room check. So I would say that Zerorush does have an advantage at the moment.
And Zerorush getting that good old convenient piece of heart that fills you all the way back up to full. Because he was running on about 4 hearts there.
I'm sad we don't have Fire Rod yet. We can't do Spooky.
Too spooky 5 me. And Check's finishing up Eastern, getting that crystal there, and I would have to say Ice Palace would be where he might go next.
Yeah, he does need to get that fire source off of Cold Stare. And he also, well, he doesn't need that Ice Rod, but he'll probably wind up clearing it out anyway.
Yeah, he did find the Titan's Mitch, which would give you a little bit of an indicator that maybe you should go to Ice. But I mean, alone it doesn't really tell you the whole story. Because it
Yeah,
could be blacksmith as well.
Or purple chest, and Chex hasn't finished that part of the quest chain.
So Zero went straight to Vitreous, so we'll probably go back in to search for the items. Probably just hoping to find at least one item on Vidi.
Yeah, since it needed to be cleared anyway, and he found the big key really, really early, makes sense to go ahead and clear out the boss first. That way you can dip out of the dungeon as soon as possible.
And yep, this is the Ice Palace play from Chex.
Uh-oh, Zero Rush forgot a key. Where are you gonna get one? I think he has to go all the way up to the fishbone room.
Yeah. Meyer key logic is really weird. Gotta go the back way.
Either that or there's one inside the big chest.
Yeah, that too.
Did he check that?
No. Because he grabbed the big key, grabbed a small key, and went straight to Vitreous. And there it is.
There's that small key he needed.
Yeah, when you go straight to Vidi like that, it throws your key progression all out of whack. If you don't get a spare key while you're checking stuff, then you gotta be like, oh, well, where am I gonna find this other key? And there it is!
And that is our go mode. Now, Zero Rush still has to go climb GT and finish off Skull Woods real quick before he can go and defeat Ganon.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to go Skull Woods into GT. Might as well, you'll be right on top of Ganon as you finish Aga 2, so there you go.
And he has those mitts, so it makes it really easy to get to the Dark World right by there. He's just going to take the regular Kakariko portal.
Meanwhile, Chex is doing the Hammerlock side of Ice.
He's going to pick up his Ice Rod on this side. Oh, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to use it for anything important.
And Zero Rush has 2 keys, so no need to grab the one from under the pot.
Nor the one from the mummy later on.
Yeah, the one thing about Overworld glitches is, just as a side note, the game that a lot of people love to play, that GT Big Key guessing game, it's kind of hard to play in Overworld glitches.
Especially when you're doing multiple trips. Who do you start watching? The person who finds it first, or the person who entered GT first?
Yeah. Not to mention, you've got about like 10 seconds to figure out that they're actually going to GT.
Yeah, that too. Since it can be done at any time, there's no sort of build-up between the cutscene or the last crystal that you pick up.
Yeah, when you see them take that, basically when you see them take that Dark World portal on West Death Mountain and start going towards the bottom, that's a chance that they're going to GT, because they could also be doing a DMD from that point. So it's
just be heading to Skull Woods or Village of Outcasts or something.
So yeah, it's really hard to tell until they start doing the clip itself.
Now, this isn't quite over for Zero Rush yet. He does still have to nail the hover for Moldorm 2, since he's bypassing getting the hook shot out of the Batcave. And he also only has the Master Sword. And as far as the Ganon fight goes, I would say that the first two phases are harder than the third and fourth. And he has silvers, so that's definitely the case here.
Yeah, at least he has silvers, because Master Sword silverless is quite the pain.
Well, he has half magic, he has fire rod, he has lamp. With enough time, he'll be able to get through the fights. I don't really have a doubt about that. It's just getting through those first couple of phases, I think, the harder part.
Yeah.
The rest is just kind of a drawn-out process.
Yeah, Ganon could be nice, though, and give us those nice double spin lineups. And Zero Rush getting blocked by that jelly.
There's our big key.
So that was 20, I guess.
And there's our Book of Medora, that thing we got the hint for so long ago.
So whoever you started the seed and guessed 20, I guess we could do it like that, you know. When we start the seed, you just start the game.
Well, that gives so much time to try to guess it. And then again, you run into the problem. Who do you track for? The person who first enters GT or the person who finds it eventually?
Unique item in Swamp was probably
the shovel.
The shovel
yeah. In the hook shot locked section in the back. Which, of course, led to a piece of heart.
So yeah, this seed had a pretty nice progression chain. If you had followed it, would have led you right to everything.
Let's see, Bow and Turtle Rock leading you to Mitts in Pod, leading you to Lamp in Ice Palace, leading you to Powder in Pod, leading you to Hookshot in on the Bat Cave, leading you to Ether from the Hookshot Cave, leading you to Fire Rod in Misery Mire.
Yeah, I mean, there was some ancillary items to find along the way, but pretty much, yeah, it laid it out pretty nicely for you.
Which is, again, why you need to keep track of your sequence breaks, since Zero Rush knew the hookshot had to be he knew that the Ether was hookshot locked. He had no reason to go to Swamp for any reason. And I guess since he could skip it entirely, it wound up pretty nice for him.
And Check's about to fight Moldorm here and get his 5th crystal. Little swag dash there from Zero Rush.
He's been pulling off a lot of rod dashes here. He did a couple of them in Skull Woods to get through the Torch Room Mummy Hellway thing. as well as doing one on the right-hand side of GT to try to bonk over the spike.
Yeah, Zero looking for maybe an extra sword, but not gonna find one.
Yeah, we know one of them is on Sahasral, and I think the other one was in Swamp, so they're both kind of swamp-locked.
And here comes the hover. So we'll see how long it takes Zero to get across that. I don't think it'll be more than a few tries. But Moldorm 2 always has the room to troll you. So meanwhile, Chex is headed...
He's heading over to Meyer now.
To Meyer, yeah. So, to explain hovering, Bully, you basically have to hit the dash button on every single frame. You have to let it go for one frame and press it for one frame, and you have to alternate that. Keep that exact pattern, and you can hover.
It's a bit easier than that. You can let it go. You have to let it go for one frame, then you can hold it for up to 30 frames. As long as Link is charging a dash, he won't fall. However, when that dash is fully charged, then he can fall. So you have up to 30 frames to let go of the button, but you can only release it for one. But he gets it on, I think, his 4th try? I think it was his 4th.
Yeah, it's just one of those tricks you really just get a feel for. It's not something you can consciously really keep track of. It's just like there's techniques to do it, such as taking 2 of your fingers and then sliding your nails across the button in a back and forth motion, and it's kind of you just kind of get the feel for it.
Gets a nice last pattern there for Agate too. So now we're on to the Ganon fight.
Asder asking, what if you play on a keyboard in terms of hovering? I mean, is it even possible to hover on a keyboard without using some sort of turbo function?
Yes, it is. And actually, I think P-Train has done it. He bound his A button to a control and was able to do the same sliding motion across the corner of his control button. So he has done it. And
looks like Zero is starting the Ganon fight here, so we'll see how the Master Sword fight plays out, and getting a nice double spin positioning here.
Still deep in the thick of the second phase. Now, he does not have the hook shot, so he does have to be careful of this bat circle. He could bonk over it, but with the spin providing so much recoil when you hit Ganon, he's got to be very careful about that. He does have enough health here to tank a hit from the bats, provided he can get through. But he's just going to use the Cane of Birna instead.
Yeah, that's one of the better spots for double spins. And he gets into phase 3, so hard part is done.
Now it's just the slog through the 4th phase that he's got to worry about. Although he does have silver, so it's not so bad.
He was on a tile at the edge there.
Just needs one more arrow here. Oh.
And down goes Ganon. And once Zero Rush crosses that bridge, we will get you the official SRL completion time. Zero Rush finishing with first place time of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 11 seconds. A GG Zero Rush. Meanwhile, we got Chex facing down Vitreous here.
He's already got his fire rod, so...
Yep. With silvers in the bow. Easy picking.
That's his second to last crystal. Still has to get Skullwood, still has to climb GT, and still has to beat Ganon. Although he does have the golden sword, so that's going to be a bit easier on that final fight for him.
So we will see if Zero Rush wants to get in here for an interview. So, overall, what did you think of this race?
The logical progression was really just the interesting part, and trying to keep track of where the sequence breaks wound up taking us, and how it just played out in Zero Rush's favor, just not finding that hook shot too early, I guess.
Yeah, I think finding that bow really helped Zero Rush in the long run.
Yeah, he was able to clear out both of those dungeons in only one trip, whereas Chex had to make two. And we are joined by Zero Rush. How you doing? Congratulations.
Oh, sorry. I was muted. I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm feeling pretty tired, though. That seems kind of not nice.
Yeah, we were spending a good portion of our time trying to wrap our heads around the logical progression of how you get to the lamp and thus into Mire.
Yeah, I mean, Bo was in logic as soon as you got Pearl and Kane, I think.
Yeah, that is correct.
And then it wanted you to go to...
It wanted you to go
Pod
to get the mitts.
To get the lamp off Cold Stare to go to Mire. That's funny. It's not often you see Fire Rod being locked behind both the lamp and the mitts in that sequence in Overworld glitches.
Yeah, and there's one piece of the logic that you were missing. That powder that you also found in Pod led to the hook shot on Magic Bat.
Oh, yeah, I was considering going to do that, especially since I had the hammer and the mitts. I could do the whole Smith's chain pretty easily, but I don't know. At that point, like, Fire Rod could be anywhere, so I just wanted to go to the places with lots of items.
And I think it was finding Hookshot as early as he did is what kind of sunk Chex here. He checked into Swamp a bit earlier and saw a hint that said that there was a unique item in Swamp, which wound up in the back half, which was the shovel that led to a piece of heart.
Oh no. I asked Marty, the restreamer, before he genned the seed not to put Fire Rod on the left side of so.
Well, he put it on the left side of Mire instead. How about that?
Might as well. That's so ridiculous. Like, I almost went to Mire before Ganon's Tower, but I figured that I had the hint for the unique item in Ganon's Tower, and I had so much of Ganon's Tower open, and I could just finish it while I was up there, most likely. But of course, Big Key was on right side, so...
Yeah, and with Big Key being on the right side, that actually just locked off the Fire Rod from being in the upstairs entirely, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah. Which is why I ultimately left, because I failed the bomb jump and was like, this is annoying, and I don't need to do this right now. I have to come back anyway, technically.
Yeah, that Gibdo really played with your with your attempt there.
It just got ping-ponged around. The timing for that's really tight, so like if you get hit once, it should be okay, but twice is definitely not good.
Yeah, it's tight enough that you can do it without anything. You can do it with just the lamp and bombs, but it's so tight. You have to have everything cleared out beforehand. And getting rid of that Gibdo when you're lacking the fire rod and any kind of decent sword is a bit of a pain.
Yeah, I don't know how he got all the way down there either, but
Yeah, I've never seen him all the way down there before, so that was kind of interesting.
I'm guessing the swords are in swamp as well.
Yeah,
there wasn't much else.
One of them was on Sahasrahla, so technically yes, and then the other was also in swamp.
Oh my god. That's cool. What a seed. At least the Moon Pro was pretty early.
Yeah, neither of you, even though you got a blue potion from the old man, neither of you did a fake flute. I'm a little disappointed in both of you.
I mean, it's cute, but it's not super helpful most of the time, and honestly, I'd just rather have the blue potion.
Yeah, you were able to save it for either Cold Stare or Ganon. I don't think you used it for either of them, though.
Yeah, I would have used it on Ganon if I got hit by a bat during the spins, but didn't need to ultimately, so that was good.
Yeah, I saw it that on that Ganon fight, right as you were about to go into Phase 4, you got knocked back onto one of the tiles that was just about to fall. So that was a bit scary there.
I had to pause there for a second, and I was like, I think I might be too far away from the edge. It'll drop me if it breaks. But I had enough time, I guess.
Yeah, because you were definitely like solidly on that tile, and if you didn't move out right away, you probably would have fell. But yeah, this seed was, as we said, like if you had trusted the seed and kind of took it, eroded the way that it wanted you to go, it would have delivered all the items to you, but how often can you really trust the seed?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in a sense, Chex trusted the seed by the hint that he got in Swamp, and look how that turned out.
Yeah, nice early flippers that were not needed for anything. Does Zora Ledge? No, Zora Ledge doesn't need flippers either, so literally useless. But it was one of the first items you get.
That may have also been something that contributed to Chex's decision to go to Swamp.
Yeah. Honestly, in my experience with Overworld glitches, like, so much of the seed is open right at the start. I don't even bother trying to think about logic and where the seed is pointing me, unless it's super obvious, like early mitts or something like that. Points to some very specific locations, but outside of that, like, nothing. Once you have Pearl, you have 95% of the game open to you. There's basically tier 1 and tier 2, and that's it.
Yeah. And Chex gonna hover the Moldorm, well, try to hover the Moldorm 2 gap. Has the hook shot, so it's not entirely necessary.
That was fun. I got so confused with that small key in Meyer for a minute. It just blew my mind. Like, for a second I thought I had to go to Fishbone Room, but I just kept thinking that doesn't make any sense. And then I remembered I have access to the big chest.
You know, I kind of ran through the same process as we saw you walk into the locked door. I was thinking, oh boy, he needs a key. What keys are available? Well, there's Fishbone Room. And then we were thinking, oh wait, no, there's still the big chest. Did he get that one? We don't know. So
yeah. And I
we were right there along with you.
It's good that was there. I mean, obviously it had to be, but I honestly couldn't remember how to get to the fishbone room. I think it's north on the right side.
Yeah,
my assumption.
above the spike chest.
Yeah.
It's a really long way. That you will see nobody ever in Rando go that way unless they are completely lost.
Yeah. Like, you don't even need that key. Like, I don't think you can key lock yourself even without that key.
Yeah, because there's that key door right there near where you get it. You almost showed that key door on screen, but I don't think you went far enough up to bring it on there
Oh, yeah.
with the
Oh,
spike floor.
Isn't there a key door in the basement, too? In the
Yes.
dungeon?
Yes, there is.
So
Yeah.
you'd have to use that door for some reason. That's a rupee room, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the smallest rupee room out of the entire game, has the fewest number. It's the most useless room in the entire game, I swear.
It's useful for bingo.
And Chex,
Arguable. There's another rupee room just a little bit further down there anyway.
yeah, but Chex is headed into phase 3, getting quite a few slashes in on Ganon.
And just tanking the hits. He's down to 3 hearts, but he's got blue mail. He should be fine.
And there goes the last slash, and into phase 4.
What is this cheater Ganon with gold sword?
Getting a
Ooh, and
nice
gets-
triple.
To close it out.
So get your GGs in chat for Chexhuman. People in chat were making so many Chex puns. He's all out of checks.
That's pretty good.
And Chexhuman finishing in second place with official SRL time of 1 hour 47 minutes and 1 second. GG Chex. And we will get him in here if he so chooses as well. But yeah, so quite the seed to start us off here. We were disappointed though that that early Pearl showed up, so no bunny shenanigans.
Yeah. I feel like Bunny Dark Road is like the early Aga of Overworld glitches.
That sounds about right.
It's such a trap.
Yeah, it's usually better to just search for the Moon Pearl when you can, and clear it out until you find it. It just unlocks so much of the seed that it's worth going out of your way to find it.
Yeah, but as we know, chat loves them some Aga 1 seeds and Ped seeds, so they'll love them some bunny shenanigans.
It's that Moon Pearl on Pyramid.
So it does look like Chex is going to join us.
Now keep in mind, this is only the first match of the entire Overworld Glitches turn. We've got plenty more to show as the days go forward here. We are just getting started with all the glitch shenanigans that you can do on the Overworld.
Yes, indeed.
Get to see some red potion smiths someday.
Actually, Chex pulled that off in this seed here.
Oh, nice.
And
Speaking of which, we are joined by Chexhuman. How you doing?
Okay. What did I pull off?
the
Smith
the-
YBA.
Oh, yes. That was dumb.
So, how did you feel about the seed?
Worst possible. Yeah, that was an interesting one for sure, but it was the worst possible arrangement for my taste.
Yeah, I think where it led you astray immediately was the hint in swamp, because then it kind of geared you toward trying to figure out what was in there, and it just didn't lead to anything.
Yes.
Not to
Good
mention,
thing I had a hook shot for that.
yeah. Not to mention that that hook shot and early flippers. I'm sure that helped kind of cement that idea in your head.
I mean, it was something to do. It wasn't something I thought would be logically like the way to go, but you know, it was some busy work.
A lot of seeds end up like that, I think. This isn't my first Overworld Glitches seed where I spend an hour looking for the fire rod, for sure.
Yeah, it's always that last item.
Uh-huh. So the thing that upset me was just the bow and the seed. Because Turtle Rock is the only thing I skipped in my routing. This is what I put off till last.
Yeah, I think when you first went up to the east side of Dark World Death Mountain, you did Hookshot Cave and Super Bunny, and then went right down to Catfish and Pod.
Catfish to Pyramid to escape.
Oh, yeah, Catfish to Pyramid. You put off Pod till later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Zero found that bow pretty early, which pointed him in the direction of Pod, where the Titan's mitts were, which kind of said, hey, maybe check out Ice.
Yes, that's exactly right. The only Sphere 2 items that I could tell were hammer, glove, and bow. And everything else in the seed came out of bow. Mitts to lamp to fire rod.
Mm-hmm. And
well, it was a bit more than just lamp to fire rod as we were going through the seed progression.
Yeah, you're right. There was ether in there. That was pretty funny. So lamp back to Pod for powder, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to there for powder, for hook shot off of the bat to ether and hookshot cave.
Yeah, what?
Is that where that was? I totally forgot about.
Yeah, it was there.
I just had it at some point and was like, oh, okay.
But yeah, it was definitely a fun seed to watch.
That's good. That's good.
I pulled off a new failed clip I haven't seen before when my first attempt to get to East Death Mountain in Light World. I teleported up by accident and then somehow hopped off that ledge over the transition and messed up.
That's how you wound up over there. I was wondering how you got yourself screen wrapped and then wound up saving and quitting. I missed what you had done to get there, but that had to have been it.
I've gotten stuck in that cliff before teleporting up by accident, but I've never managed to jump out of it that way. So that was a new one for me.
Yeah, and Chex did show off the Death Mountain super drop that Taj explained to us.
Oh yeah, it's a swamp. That's a good one. You can take that one right to Meyer Shed too, but you have to do it with a busted camera, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah, and then Meyer Shed doesn't even fix your camera when you're done with it.
Yep. I'm assuming you can unlock Meyer in that state too, but I'm not sure.
You can. It turns out that the medallion pad is more linked to the overworld position than anything else. Like the global position, not just the one on the screen.
It's really great if you open Meyer with ether from the super jump, because you have the lightning strike that takes forever to land onto Link.
Is it basically coming from Death Mountain all the way
Yeah.
there and has to scroll through like 8 screens?
Yeah, it's amazing. I recommend trying it.
That is quite interesting. But yeah, make sure to give these runners a follow, and also follow my co-commentator Tajso and our tracker Sam Imus. And is there anything you guys have left to say about the seed?
Oh, come on, you can plug yourself too. Go ahead and do that too. Go ahead and give Jetters a follow as well. You're the only other one on this team who hasn't been shouted out in that respect.
And we have a question in chat. Yes, this is a new tournament. This is the first match of the tournament. So there's plenty more, and such as tomorrow we have 2 matches. One at 7, Liam Atlas versus Ois 28. And at 9 we have Fuzzy Games versus a Chexhuman. So and another one at 9, sorry. AHP versus Furaime. So, yeah, there's plenty of Overworld Glitch matches tomorrow.
I'm hyped for Owase's mirror jumps. Stay tuned for that.
He's like Screevo in that, one of the few people that actually like that glitch.
We'll see.
Yep.
GG's.
Thank you all for stopping by, and we will see you all later.
Good games. Thanks for tracking and commentating and watching and restreaming.